Let's talk about the border right now, because just one day after Senate Republicans blocked a border security bill, there's word that the White House is preparing for a plan B. Two U.S. officials tell NBC News that President Biden may take executive action to address the border crisis, including efforts to stem the flow of migrants. Now, that number hit a record high back in December, with Customs and Border Patrol reporting more than 10,000 crossings per day. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us with more. Julia, look, you are so well sourced on this topic. How much of an impact could an executive action have? And is that sort of an admission that we can't solve this problem without legislative help?
Well, that's exactly why the White House sent out the statement on our reporting, I think, Morgan, that they did last night, where they're saying, look, there's nothing that the White House can do that will get anywhere near the impact of that border bill. And they just continue to say that the bill should be passed. But as you just pointed out in your previous reporting, that has now been stripped from what just got passed through the Senate. So it's a question of, could it be added in or passed in a different way? But basically, without funding, without new authorities, they're basically just trying to put a Band-Aid on a much bigger problem here. But sources that I've spoken to and my colleague Monica Alba has spoken to say they've got to do something. These numbers are expected to start going up again in March. Going into an election year, this is becoming a really big issue. Some people who didn't care a whole lot about immigration or indifferent about people coming into our country, it's now starting to be an issue they care about. And the White House wants to act, but it probably won't go as far.
You know, you describe sort of the system and the back and forth here, but I know that you mentioned there was a 50% drop in crossings between the record high that we saw in December and just as January hit. I mean, what changed? How did you see a drastic drop to that degree?
Well, one of the reasons the numbers were so high in December is because Mexico had run out of a lot of funding to interdict the migrants who were coming from Central and South America through Mexico on their way to the United States. They simply weren't able to stop nearly as many as they usually could. Then they got more funding at the start of the year when their funding calendar starts back up. So they're stepping in. The other thing is seasonal. They usually drop in January and go back up in March.
So a little bit of that we're seeing is somewhat typical there. NBC News Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley with the latest and breaking news there. Julia, thanks.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.